Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry. A ton has happened in Dragalia Lost this past week, and I hope to discuss all of that with you soon. But today's video is all about one specific adventurer, this time Ricardt, a healer who's, well, more than a little sheepish. Mind coming out to say hello, Ricardt? How did you even get back there anyway? Hang on, let me try this. You ready, Ricardt?
Ready! Sorry, yes, I'm ready.
Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Right. Let's go? Is everyone ready? I hope I am. Speaking in front of people makes me ever so anxious. Oh, my stomach.
You okay there, buddy?
Oh, dear me. This doesn't look good. Whoa, I'm getting dizzy.
Yikes. Looks like Ricardt might be the one who needs healing here. Well, let's not put him on the spot any further. Why don't you get some rest, Ricardt, and leave what's left to us?
Sorry, thank you. Sorry again.
Get well soon, Ricardt. Poor guy. Well, I'm sure he'll be fine after a while. Anyway, here goes with the analysis. Ricardt is a natural 3-star water element staff healer. That also means Ricardt has the recovery potency co-ability, but as a 3-star, the percentages on that co-ability are low. 2% at base, up to 10% once fully upgraded as a 5-star. Of course, it's really hard to recommend actually taking Ricardt all the way to 5-star and fully upgrading his co-ability, unless you absolutely love the character. That's the sad reality with most 3-star characters in the game as things stand now. Even once fully promoted and upgraded, they just have generally worse stats and abilities than their higher rarity counterparts. Here's a look at how Ricardt's own stats progress. At its maximum, Ricardt's HP is in the bottom 5 for all water units in the game, and his strength is in the bottom 3. Not great, but Ricardt's skills do help make up for his weaker stats quite a bit. There aren't too many noticeable differences in his kit or performance, unlocked at 4-star or 5-star, so Ricardt is one of those units whose sweet spot is probably just as a 3-star, and thankfully, he can be a fine role player at that rarity. Let's start by analyzing Ricardt's abilities before moving on to his skills. Ricardt's one unique ability is full HP equals defense, which can be upgraded up to 20%, even with Ricardt as a 3-star. Essentially, this grants Ricardt 20% more defense, but only when he is at full health. And unfortunately, this ability is pretty bad. Full HP abilities are demanding, albeit less so for ranged units and even less so for healers who can top off their own health consistently. But even if you can maintain this ability, the payoff is just weak, so much so that you can pretty much ignore it when building Ricardt. Unlike say full HP equals strength, limiting the damage for one or even a few hits per match with full HP equals defense just doesn't amount to very much. The one slight exception is for tanking the initial hits of high dragons, which deal massive, unavoidable damage, but unfortunately Ricardt's affliction resistance is to stun, not burn, which High Brunhilde inflicts. This, along with Ricardt's weaker stats, make him very tough and perhaps even outright impossible to use against High Brunhilde effectively. Sunres is nice though for mid-range content like Flame Imperial Onslaught, and Ricardt gets 25% as a 3-star, 50% as a 4-star, and 75% behind a third ability as a 5-star. Stun is definitely a nuisance, so in a vacuum this is a nice resistance to have, and it doesn't hurt that it's inflicted by both wind and flame enemies. Still, of course, I wouldn't suggest bringing Ricardt to maps full of wind foes, since his innate elemental weakness will sting. As for skills, Ricardt's are pretty good, just slow to charge. They're certainly the most redeeming part of his kit and stat spread. And because they're both healing skills, this makes Ricardt particularly easy to build. His first skill is Measure of Mercy, and it takes 4 full basic attack combos with the staff to fully charge. The good news is that this skill is just as potent as the first skills on higher rarity healers like Hildegard, Lowen, and Thaniel. But the bad news is that many of those higher rarity skills have secondary effects like curing status ailments, and they charge a full staff combo sooner, taking only 15 hits to charge instead of 20. This slow charge factor is particularly egregious when you consider that many 3-stars heal with the same recovery potency as Ricardt on their first skill, yet also charge their skill a full combo sooner. Orion, Hope, Sophie, and Edward all fit into this category, making Ricart's higher SP cost for an identical skill almost seem like a mistake. Ricart's second skill is more on par with his peers, however, despite being very, very slow. Holy Water heals Ricart's entire team and grants a nice HP regen buff, but the catch is this takes 6 full staff combos to charge. This is actually tied for the slowest to charge skill in the game, outside of a few weapon skills, with Verica, Hildegard, and Estelle's second skills being equally slow. And Estelle is an especially apt comparison because her second skill is actually exactly identical to Ricart's Holy Water. In the end, Ricart's skills are undeniably slow. Without skill prep, there's no changing that. But the upside to Ricardt is that both of his skills heal, something which can't be said of all 3-star healers. This means Ricardt is focused as a unit, and I've taken that into account with my build ideas. This first setup is great for anyone who's trying to build Ricardt on a budget. Luis's Hobbies was a free worm print given out during the facility event A Wish to the Winds, and it grants a nice bonus to recovery potency. It's basically the best free-to-play healing worm print currently in the game. For dragons, Mercury focuses on HP, and even though she's intentionally weaker as a free dragon, she's still better than the 3 stars for someone who wants HP like Ricardt, since his healing will scale off the extra HP he has. Finally, Beauty's Balm is a 4-star non-elemental staff which grants Ricardt another healing skill, even slower to charge than his others, but this one provides a sizable heal to the team member most in need, awesome in a pinch, and cohesive with Luis's Hobbies. My second build idea is for those looking to take Ricardt to his full potential. My favorite healing worm print from the gacha pool is Cleo's Ruse, since it provides extra recovery potency above the easy to maintain 70% cutoff. It also provides last defense in case things get rough for poor Ricardt. For dragons, Poseidon is the best for HP in the water pool, followed by Poliahu, since there is no dedicated HP gacha dragon for water yet. Finally, I prefer the 4-star elemental water staff to the 5-star one, since it provides the same extra heal as Beauty's Balm, whereas the 5-star merely increases Ricardt's recovery potency for 5 seconds when its skill is used. As far as teammates, Ricardt plays well with close-range fighters like Xander and Dragon Yule Cleo, who can't help but take damage and have no built-in healing. These two also have stun res, making them perfect for Flame Imperial Onslaught. Cleo in particular stands out since she wants to maintain above 70% HP to receive extra strength from her first ability, so she appreciates the healing from Ricardt. For competition, there's only one other water healer, Thaniel. Thaniel has burn res rather than Ricardt's stun res, and a generally better first skill. As alluded to earlier, it heals for just as much as Ricardt's, but it charges faster and cures burn. Thaniel's second skill isn't a heal though, it's a defense buff, and his primary ability of Gauge Inhibitor, at least for now, is about as useless as Ricardt's full HP equals defense. Ultimately, I think Ricardt and Thaniel are different enough to coexist, but Thaniel is certainly the preferred choice for endgame content like Hilda. The other competition Ricardt faces is Verica, since she can cure stun and has innate stun res up to 100%. This makes her a strong candidate for Flame Imperial Onslaught, which is Ricardt's best use, but since Verica doesn't resist flame damage naturally like Ricardt does, she is vulnerable if you aren't actively dodging with her. For that reason, I do slightly prefer Ricardt in that specific context. In general, however, Verica is an excellent unit, a must-have against High Midgard Stormer, and all around one of the strongest healers in the game. But speaking of Flame Imperial Onslaught, that's exactly where I'll be testing out Ricardt today. This time around, I'm going to play Flame IO on Master Difficulty and show how Ricardt is an awesome teammate if you wish to auto-battle this map. Hopefully this shows that auto-battling these maps isn't terribly difficult, and isn't outside the scope of a free-to-play player. Auto-battling Master IOs is definitely not pure whale territory, and doing so can make finding out the many insignias needed for dojos and weapons much easier. The only gacha 5-star I'm using on this team is a Wish Upon the Yule Tree, which I could replace with the free Wormprint Volcanic Queen fairly easily. When attempting this, having 2 healers makes a big difference in team survival, and that's why I've brought along both Thaniel and Ricardt. In fact, the whole team I'm using has ways to heal. Karina can trigger her own healing double buff using the defense boost on her weapon, and Luther can heal himself with a skill on his dagger. Thaniel, meanwhile, heals both Karina and Luther whenever he buffs team defense, thanks to Luther's Wormprint, a wish upon the Yule Tree, granting healing double buff as well. Everyone on the team is near max level, but with only 30 mana nodes unlocked, meaning no one has 100% stun res yet, and that does result in a few close calls. This team can't yet win every time, but it's on its way there. Ricardt comes in clutch with his heals, often to save himself and iframe at an opportune time, and it's not hard to imagine how much easier this would be without using auto battle and just playing it out. Ricardt's 4 strikes would be especially useful once the enemy was in the overdrive state. Now typically I'd recommend putting a close range fighter as the team leader, since that will mean the AI group more closely to the character in most circumstances, but in my experience, setting Ricardt as leader has worked just fine. I'm using my previously shown budget build for Ricardt, and once proper HP water dragons are released, I can only imagine this strategy becoming even more consistent in the future. In the end, it isn't the prettiest battle, but Ricardt and the team comp as a whole ensure everyone survives, and in turn, deals enough damage to finish off the boss. Ricardt really is a great role player for this map, which you'll have to do a lot of to grind out the Volcanic Queen Wormprint for a Flame Elemental weapon, or, once you have those, as I do, for certain dojos like Sword and Bow. I think you'll generally want 2 out of 3 of Verica, Ricardt, and Thaniel to auto-battle Flame IO consistently on Master difficulty, and as a 3-star, Ricardt is slightly more likely to be in your barracks than the other 2, and costs slightly less to fully build. Now as the battle comes to its end, let's view the first chapter of Ricardt's story as I wrap things up. Hopefully by now, he's feeling a little better since the intro as well. Overall, I think Ricardt is an appealing character. I can imagine him being a hit with Lowen fans, and his story in particular is salient to those with interest in medicine or even religion, given Ricardt's background, as well as anyone who's ever experienced stage fright or feels intimidated at times. While there are a few initially timid characters in Dragalia Lost, none have the comedic timing of Ricardt, which I definitely appreciated. From a gameplay perspective, the verdict isn't as favorable, unfortunately. The reality is that Ricardt is hindered by his design across a number of dimensions. Like all 3-star characters we've explored during this series, his ailment res only goes up to 75% and takes up 2 ability slots. His stats and co-ability are deliberately worse than those of higher rarity units of the same weapon type, and in the vast majority of cases, Ricardt's first ability, the one truly unique thing he has, will have little to no impact on the outcome of a quest. What sets Ricardt apart then is that he's the only 3-star healer with 2 team heals in his kit, but the cost is that both his skills take a long time to charge. In particular, Ricardt's first skill requires a full extra sequence of basic staff attacks compared to other adventurers' skills, which are identical or better than his. Despite this, Ricardt does have 1 or 2 good use cases. For one, he's great to round out a Flame Imperial Onslaught team, especially if you're attempting to auto-battle that map on Master or Expert difficulty. And likewise, Ricardt will do well on easier Flame maps to ensure team survival. Despite his lack of burn res, for instance, Ricardt is a decent role player when trying to auto-battle Brunhilde on Master difficulty or during facility events like the recent Miracle of Dragon Yule. Ultimately, Ricardt is a fine unit, just not one you can reasonably expect to take into endgame content like High Brunhilde anytime soon. For that reason, I don't suggest you invest too heavily into him. He's fine at 3-star, unless you really love his character. And as Ricardt's story comes to a close, allow me to provide a few comments on 3 stars as a whole, since we'll be moving on to 4 stars next and focusing on those for a while. I hope this series has helped illuminate some of the challenges 3-star units face, while also highlighting their possible use cases. Not all 3 stars are equal in power. Some, like Melody, are helped greatly by their unique skills, while others, like Vita, have creative kits that actually make them especially hard to build and utilize effectively. respectively. With Elaine, we saw how some 3 stars cover weapon element combinations that don't exist at higher rarities. And with Mallory, we saw how, despite an abundance of light archers, her 2 attacking skills make her fairly decent. Now with Ricardt, we've covered a healer as well, and not a bad one at that, despite a number of limitations. After some reflection, here are my thoughts. In the end, there is merit to weaker units in Dragalia Lost, and a star rarity system is core to the gacha. It's what makes getting higher rarity characters feel special, so there's bound to be some hierarchies built into the game. 3 stars can do perfectly fine for plenty of content, with some even viable for high dragon trials with enough investment. But when you have to pick and choose who to spend precious Eldwater on, 3 stars fall behind. Despite costing more to fully build, the rewards for doing so are poor. So all said, I hope that Dragalia Lost considers buffing its 3-star units eventually. They are serviceable, even good team fillers right now, but I would love to see their unique personalities and stories shine through more in their actual mechanics, even if they're never made as strong as their 4 and 5-star counterparts. Alright, and that's going to do it for this video. Like I said, next up we'll cycle through a 4-star of each element, then decide where to go from there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'd love to hear what you think of Ricardt and the general situation with 3-star adventurers in the comments below. I know a ton has happened this week in Dragalia Lost, so expect more content this week and weekend. Until then, take care everyone, and I'll see you next time.
I have the scriptures memorized. Glory to Dog and the... Wait, Dog? Oh, that's embarrassing.